Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson. So the big picture is all about Canopic jars, and the learning focus is to have an understanding of Canopic jars and to be able to create a successful pencil drawing. So before we start, I've actually got a couple of images that are similar to those on the screen and my slides that I'm going to show you today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just place these images in my sketchbook. So just one sort of underneath the other like that. And the reason for that is because as the slides go on, what I'm going to do is make a few little notes. And you could do something similar in your sketchbook or on paper, depending on where you're working. So the information on your screen at the moment, it says Canopic jars were used by the ancient Egyptians during the mummification process to store and preserve the internal organs of their owner for the afterlife. So they believed that by storing all the internal organs, that actually it would help them in the afterlife and that it might benefit them. They were normally either carved from sort of limestone, some were made of pottery, and occasionally wood. So what I'm going to do using my ruler is I'm going to draw a lovely sort of straight line, very faint in my sketchbook. I might just press a little bit harder actually because I can see the camera view doesn't sort of pick that one up. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So I'm just going to draw those just straight across my page, working around the images that I've placed in my book. You can just, use a Pritt stick, sort of glue them down if you want to. I'll just leave them sort of loose for the moment, just because I think I'm going to sort of move them around the page just for the camera viewpoint later on. So just adding a few lines. You could add sort of a few more as sort of the time goes on. But I'm just going to give it a sort of nice title. So I'm just going to go for the one at the top where it says big picture. So I might even write the big picture. Let's go big picture. And then I'm going to write that nice CANOPIC and then jars. The good thing about sort of writing in pencil is if you make any mistakes, you can rub it out. But you may want to write straight away in pen. So it says there on the screen that they were used by the ancient Egyptians, and they're sort of used to sort of store the internal organs of their owner. So I'm going to write that because I think that's probably the most important fact about them, really. So they were used to store the internal organs of the owner of the jars. Okay, you could add more to that. You could talk about the fact that they were normally carved from sort of limestone, possibly in pottery, or the fact that some occasionally were carved from wood. Okay, so feel free to add a few little notes around the images that you may have stuck into your books. Okay, so the actual lids or the top section of these jars were actually carved with heads that identify their sort of four protectors or four gods. And they're represented by these sort of four images here. So we've got the baboon head is happy. The human head is Imseti. The jackal head is Damotef, and the falcon head is, I'm really struggling, such a long name there. I think it's Kubesinath. I think some of you might be slightly better at your Egyptian pronunciation. We'll go for it really confidently. We'll go Kubesinath. Okay, but if you think my pronunciation is wrong, do let me know. It's an unusual spelling there. So we've got the four protectors. And you can see them there on your screen. They're all represented by a different sort of head shape. So we've got the baboon, we've got the jackal, we've got the falcon, and yeah, they're just all there across the screen that you can sort of see. And we've got the human head there as well at the end. So about the sort of different ones then and what they actually did. We've got the human head, Imseti, was a guardian of the liver. Okay, so the internal organ, the liver, predominantly that was placed inside that jar. The baboon head looked after the lungs, the jackal head was responsible for the stomach, and the falcon head cared for the intestines. Okay, so they all each had a different responsibility. or sort of looked after a different internal organ. And I think that's quite a nice thing. So you might want to, I think I might just do it as some more lines. Actually, I'm going to add some more lines into my sketchbook, just going across here. You don't have to follow it exactly how I'm doing it. You can pause the video if you want to. You can spend a bit more time making notes from the PowerPoint on the screen. But I'm just pressing slightly harder than what I would normally, just so it shows up on the camera there, like that. Okay, so we've got the human head, so I could put, or I might even just put his name, Imseti. I think that's how you pronounce it. So he was a guardian of the liver. I really like that. Guardian of the liver. And he was the human head shape. So I might just put that in capital letters at the end. Human head, just to remind me. We've then also got the baboon head. So we've got happy. H-A-P-Y with one P, sorry. And he looked after the lungs, so responsible for the lungs. Let's just do that. And what shape head was he? He was the baboon. Let's pop that one in there. B-A-B-O-O-N, baboon head, we'll put at the end there. And the other two, so we got Damotef and Kubesinuf, who sort of cared for the intestines and the stomach. Okay, so you can add those just to your page. I won't continue to do that as we go through. So I would like you to have a go at creating a drawing of your favourite. So which one of those jars is your favourite, the one that you sort of find the most interesting. Perhaps you could add information about it around your drawing once you've completed it. What I'm going to do is I'll actually go over to a second page in my sketchbook. So let's just move this over. And this is why I didn't stick my images down at the start, just so I can sort of move them around to sort of show you what I'm doing. So I think the one that I like the most, quite tricky really, but I think I quite like the baboon head. I like the fact he's called Happy. It's easy for me to sort of pronounce as well on the video. So we'll go for Happy, the baboon head. And I'm going to have a go at sketching that out. I will move the image around so you can sort of see it, but I just want you to see my sort of drawing first of all and what I'm trying to do. Might even just see if I can fold the picture down a little bit, just to make it a bit easier on the screen. So I'm going to draw this one here, just at the top left of your corner. So I can see in terms of the shape, I want to sort of have a go at drawing the base first of all, the jar shape at the bottom. So I can see, and this is really good in terms of observation. What you really need to know when drawing is try to draw what you can see. So first of all, it might be useful if you were to try and describe the base. So I can see it's sort of a rectangular shape, so it's longer than it is wide. But actually what happens is it gets slightly narrower near the bottom. So I'm going to have a go at doing that. I am going to press slightly harder than what I would normally. I'm going to just tilt that so you can see the base there just getting slightly smaller. And I can see that the base of it is just ever so slightly rounded like that to give the impression it is the jar. The top section then, so it does go round a little bit. So we've got these sort of curved shoulder shapes and then it just cuts across the top. So I'm really, really trying to look at the shapes that I can see within the images that I've got there on the screen. And then in terms of the head, I can see it sort of goes inwards. So we're going to go inwards slightly on both sides. Like that. I'll just move the camera up slightly so you can see the top part that I'm now drawing. So it goes inwards slightly. And then I can see that it then sort of comes outwards. In fact, I think it's slightly longer, that shape. Let's make it just come in slightly more. And then it sort of comes out. And then it's kind of like it reminds me of sort of peach shape, peach the fruit or apple, sort of coming round slightly there like that. Okay, so I've just sort of sketched that in. You could spend a huge amount of time Again, don't press too hard with your pencil at this stage. You want to make it really, really lovely and light. So the next thing I'm going to have a go at doing is the face in the middle. And I can see that we've got a sort of shape that goes round like that. I think it comes in a little bit around the eyes and then down. I'm really trying to look at the shapes that I can see within the image, and I can see his eyes just slot where it's slightly wider, starting to look like it a little bit better now. Pop the eyes in. I'll just place those in. Remember, these would have been really highly decorative pieces. The age has sort of worn them away. Let's add a bit of a nose. It's got an upside down sort of squash triangle shape there for the nose, bit of the bridge of the nose, and then perhaps I might add a bit of a line for the mouth. Okay, so if you bring that in like that. Once you're happy with that, then you can start to add some shading. You could start to add some detail. You will have to really look carefully at the image that you're copying. You might find that there are some better images that you can use other than sort of the ones that I'm showing here. But there's some really, really lovely elements that I'll start with. I can see that this side is actually slightly darker, and I can see that there's a sort of shadow shape down at the bottom here. So I might want to start with that, with my shading. So actually start to go really, really lovely and dark. I won't complete this drawing today, actually. I've got a few examples, just some ones I found on the internet, actually. You might be able to find some other examples. You could just type it in, sort of Canopic jar drawing, perhaps, to see if you can find a few other examples of what others have produced. Do you see there that I've just turned my pencil on its side? That's just because I find it a lot easier to turn it sideways, and also it means that I can get a lighter sort of bit of shading on the jar there. A nice sharp pencil. Always keep sharpening your pencil. If it becomes a bit too blunt, you get sort of not a very nice clean edge down the side. You end up with something that I say to my students at my school, it looks a little bit furry around the edges. Okay, so always keep sharpening your pencil if you can. And I can see it sort of darker just up here as well. So I'm going to add just a little bit of that in just for the purposes, so you get the general idea of what I'm trying to do. So shading in here. And then just sort of gradually, I'm going to make that a little bit smoother just by turning my pencil sideways. You might find that actually you prefer to hold your pencil in a more upright position for the whole thing. I personally don't. I find it easier when you're going near the edges to hold it upright, and then everything else sort of turn it around. So I'm happy with a little bit of shading there. I'm actually just going to have a little look at the base, and I can see on this one it has got a bit of shading. So I'll just add it. It sort of comes out from here, really. Okay, so I'm going to turn the pencil on its side, and I'm going to shade just along the bottom there. And I can see underneath my sort of image that I've got here, it's a lot darker. Okay, so it's much, much darker. I'm going to press a lot harder underneath the base of that jar, where perhaps it would be sort of touching the surface of a table, perhaps where it's placed. Okay, so really giving the impression that it's on something rather than just sort of floating in the middle of the page. You can add a sort of surface line. I know I've spoke about those in previous videos. It's just a line that goes sort of a couple of centimeters up from the base of what you're drawing to really give the impression that it's on something, and then you could add your shadow up to the edge there if you want to. I'll just complete it here like that. Okay, so there you go. I've had a go at just adding a little bit of a line onto my drawing. Now I'll put a couple of examples on your screen. Here's some others that have been produced. What I really like about these is they've actually put the internal organs inside, so you can see that they've put sort of the liver, the stomach, or the intestines inside. You can add information about perhaps the protector that you're representing or drawing on the page. I like how they've added some decorative elements, so particularly around the sort of neck area of the jar. You could add some sort of stripes if you want to. You could change it up a little bit. So I might add some patterns just here, just to make it a bit different, and I could sort of shade those dark to light. I could add perhaps some kind of decorative pattern here, maybe some circles. I'm just trying to imagine what it would have perhaps looked like when all those thousands of years ago, when it was originally sort of brand new or used. There you go. So I'm just adding some little gems, decorative gems at the top there. You don't have to do that. You can just copy your images completely. Okay, the next little part then, I've got a few questions just to sort of test your knowledge. Feel free to sort of pause. You could the video at any point. You could do hands up, and I'll go through them as quickly as I can. Okay, so the question then, what protector is associated with the baboon head? Again, you can sort of pause it here if you want to. So the baboon head, who was that one? The answer was Happy. Yeah, well done. Obviously, that was from my drawing just there. Okay, what about the protector who is associated with the human head? Perhaps somebody might have drawn that in today's lesson. So the human head, who is associated with the human head? Imseti, there it is there on your screen. You can see it's got the human shape, an Egyptian sort of person at the top of the jar. What about the protector who is associated with the jackal head? Again, feel free to pause these if I'm going through them too quickly and you want a moment or two to sort of put your hands up or discuss it as a class. Jackal head is Dameltef. Okay, so you got the jackal, kind of looks like a sort of dog, a jackal is. Okay, what about the falcon head then? Some of you will notice it's the last one then, the falcon head. Enough. Okay, so you've got a falcon and the bird sort of head shape there. Okay, so internal organs then. So this is a little bit harder to perhaps remember. So what protector was associated with storing the liver? So the liver, storing the liver. You might take a few moments to sort of have a little think who that was. Imseti, so that was the human head shape. There we go. And the next one, storing the lungs. Who was responsible for storing the lungs? Happy, so that was the one that I had a go at drawing. Perhaps I could add some like lung shape on my page here in the center of my jar. Would look really, really good. Storing the stomach. Who was responsible for storing the stomach? Dameltef. Okay, so that was the jackal head. Storing the intestines. Who was responsible for storing the intestines? Sometimes it gets a little bit easier when we're down to the last few. Enough. Okay, so well done, those of you that guessed that last one correct. Perhaps your pronunciation on that last one is much better than mine. I might have a little Google. I think you can sort of type it in, and then you'll be able to sort of learn the pronunciation of that that long name there. Okay, guys, well done for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed my sort of shading on my Canopic jar. Feel free to fill your pages in your sketchbook with sort of lots of information, pictures. You could make it bright and sort of colourful. I'm going to unfold that one actually, just so you can see my total page. Okay, stick your images down. Make sure you underline things with your beautiful drawing as well. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you soon. Bye.